and welcome to my channel. I'm Stephanie and this is the week 6, February the 2nd through the 8th weekly wrap up. Okay, as I said, it's the week 6 weekly wrap up for February the 2nd through the 8th. I read 9 books this week. It has been a crazy week. I had a job interview and I got a new job, which means I start a new job on Monday, tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know what this is going to do with my, or how this is going to affect my reading. At this point in time, it is a super chill job, it seems. As of right now, it's working in a warehouse, it's doing admin type stuff. I'm kind of excited about it because I can pretty much wear exactly what I do during the day when I didn't have a job at this job. So I'm kind of stoked about that. Just jeans, t-shirts, you know, chill, worrying about, you know, if it's cold outside, because then the warehouse is going to be cold. So, you know, I get to prepare for that one. Only thing I'm kind of worried about is that the hours are going to really affect my life. It's a 9 to 5 job, and I have been used to working a either super early job, getting off super early type job in this area. So now I'm going to be, you know, going to work with pretty much everyone else in this area, or at least getting off of work around the same time everyone else is, so I have to deal with the traffic and stuff like that. That's going to be real interesting. And my roles are going to be flipped here in my household, whereas I was responsible for taking my son to swim practice and stuff like that because I had the time in the evenings to do that. Now I won't, because I'll be getting off work, dealing with traffic and getting home and stuff like that during his swim practice time. So yeah, it's gonna be real interesting to figure out, you know, this new dynamic. But hopefully that doesn't affect my reading too much, because being that I have to drive to work, it'll be like a 30-minute drive to work, and sometimes up to an hour coming home. So I will still be getting in the audiobooks. So yeah, there's that. If you didn't see it, I did make an announcement that I am a co-host for a readathon next month called the Audiobookathon. Make sure that you guys are checking that out. It seems like it's going to be a fun way to listen to audiobooks with other folks. And I am the only romance genre reader in the group, so you can definitely you know, put this with other genres. So we welcome all. Yes, please do. I will link that video in the cards up there for you, so you can go check out my announcement video, and then in turn go check out everyone else's announcement videos as well. The challenges are going to be a whole bunch of fun, but we're giving them to you early so that you can sort of plan them out, and if you use your library system, you can, you know, get them on hold, or, you know, get on the list and things like that, because I know some libraries, it takes a little while for you to get your audiobooks. I think that's it. Let's get into what I did read last week. I read 9 books last week, and I started the week reading Fighting Absolution by Kate McCarthy. I place this in contemporary. I give it 5 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I read it as an ebook, and this is a military romance. This book is actually the follow-up book to Fighting Redemption, and it just makes me want to go back and reread that one. Oh my goodness. This is about a completely different couple, but the situation that connects the 2 books, you feel like, okay, I read that already and I sort of know what was going on, and now this is, wow, I didn't even know this story was part of it. So this follows Jamie and Kyle. Jamie, you start off the book finding that Jamie has been in a traumatic event, and you don't know what that traumatic event is until later on in the story. And, you know, you just know that she has a broken arm, she has some bruised ribs, she, you know, isn't feeling right about herself. She's feeling guilty about something you don't know what. And it's something that has been publicized in the media. So she is now in a foster home, and she makes a friend by sitting by this fence. And you find out later that it is Kyle, but at the time you only know that this person is Bear. And oh my goodness, it is such a good story. Make sure you have your tissues ready, because whew, in true military romance fashion, it has a lot of military representation in it, and it was excellent military representation, which is always a thing in my reading. If it's not good military representation, I will DNF and trash a book. But this one has amazing representation. Even though it is Australian military, it has so much American feel to it, because a lot of militaries are very, very similar when it comes to training and the camaraderie and the brotherhood, sisterhood, and things like that. So yes, just it was such a beautiful, beautiful story. There are trigger warnings for guilt, PTSD, and self-deprecation, guilt, and trauma. So just go into it lightly. Just know that it's a moving and emotional and raw and very realistic story that could definitely happen to someone, especially if you have any military ties. So you can definitely really feel yourself in this story. The next book that I finished was Tumble, Dogwood Lane #1 by Adriana Locke. This is a new adult story. I give it 4.25 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. This is a reread for me, and it increased the star rating and the fan rating by listening to it as an audiobook. This is like girl power self-discovery. Oh my goodness. So you have Neale, who was involved with Dane in her small town. They end up separating, going their own ways. She moves to New York, but then something happens while she's in New York at her job, and she moves back home. And they have been dreading sort of seeing each other. They still have the attraction that they did before, and you kind of get to see them reconnect and refine themselves and realign what they really, really want out of life. And I really enjoyed the audiobook narration. It gave me more emotion than it did when I first read it. So I was reading this so that I can read the rest of the series, and yeah, really enjoyed it as an audiobook. The next book that I finished was The Little Bookshop on the Seine by Raisin. I place this in Women's Lit. I give it 2 stars. I give it 1 Steam fan. I read this as an ARC, and it started off really good. It started off giving me the movie The Holiday feels, and I was like, oh, okay, we're doing a little bookshop swap thing here. Our main character, Sarah, is in Boston or near Boston, small little town, and she has a friend that has a bookshop in Paris, and the bookshop owner in Paris ends up having a bad breakup with a guy from the area. So she's like, I need to get out of town. Oh, swap with me, Sarah. You know, let's switch, you know, bookshops, and you come run mine and I'll go run yours, because I need some time away. And it all happens around the Thanksgiving Christmas time frame, and Sarah ends up getting in over her head because this bookshop is crazy. There's some other characters that, you know, are, I guess, pivotal or in the story. I don't know. It just kind of went off the rails once Sarah got there, and some things started happening, and then it was like, whoo, Sarah is a big old, like, rug. She gets walked over, like, ridiculously. She has this love interest that he is, like, a journalist, a traveling journalist or something like that, but is always giving excuses to her on why he can't be somewhere. Oh, I can't come visit you because I'm doing this. I can't come visit you because I'm doing this. I can't come visit you because I'm doing this. But I love you. What? Doormat. Doormat. Sarah is a freaking doormat. And I was like, I got to the end of it and was like, what? Sit. What? Boy, bye. Boy, bye. But did Sarah say boy, bye? No, she didn't. No. Wasn't feeling this at all whatsoever. And it really felt as if you should have read some other books, because it was like the author thought you should know the characters already and just gave you little bits and pieces of how they connected. I was like, what? Huh? Yeah. The next book that I finished was Legend by M.R. Leahy. This is a fairy tale retelling, and it's part of the Sinister Fairy Tales collection. This is also a dark romance. Oh my gosh! I give it 5 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I read this as an ARC. It came out last week, and you guys need to go check it out. It is a fairy tale retelling, reimagining of Tarzan and Jane, and it is so freaking good. As soon as I got it, I started reading it, and I could not put it down. I was like, oh, what? It was so good. From the prologue, I was like, yes, so many yeses. If you were following me on social media, you would have known that I devoured this book. So we have Tarzan, who is the hidden prince of the jungle, and he knows that he's a little different, but his mother is keeping him hidden. And then you have Leahy, who is a human female. She knows, and she's been told by her mother and her father, that she is special, that she has a mission, and that she is going to do great things. When they both become of age and some things start to reveal themselves, they're drawn to each other, and it was just amazing. There is a shifter element that is added to it. It is very dark, and it was so good. It was so good. And the cover is absolutely amazing as well. So good. So good. I don't know what else to say besides it was so good. The next book that I finished was The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. I placed this in rom-com. I give it 4.5 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I read this as an ARC. It recently released. And this is about Lena, who is a wedding planner, but she didn't start off as a wedding planner. You start off with Lena being at her wedding, and then Max, who is the brother of her groom, comes and tells her, yeah, my brother doesn't want to marry you. Leaves her at the altar like that. She's a little jilted and a little jaded about relationships and stuff like that, but then she becomes a wedding planner, and she becomes an amazing wedding planner. People love her work and love that she is doing her thing. So when she is propositioned by a huge hotel conglomerate, I think that's what we would call it, to run their sort of concierge wedding business in the hotels, she finds herself having to work with Max, the brother who broke up with her for the other brother, her ex-fiance. So this is their story, the two of them working together. I think this worked amazingly because it gave just enough of that, disappointment and I wouldn't say hate or dislike, that it gives this sort of tension between Max and Lena, because Lena's like, you broke up with me for your coward brother, seriously, dude. And Max is like, I feel bad because I broke up her and my brother's wedding. So they both have this guilt of an anger that goes along with their situation that they had years ago. But now that they have to work together, you kind of get to see them journey through all that muckety muck of, you know, what actually happened, where they were actually feeling, what their feelings were. It was so, so good. And even though Lena is like this super strong, independent, you know, showing character, her vulnerability really shows through and her feelings really show through as the journey goes along. And I loved that we got Max's vulnerabilities as well. There was a really good grovel scene by them. I do wish that Lena had groveled a little bit more than she did, but at the same time, you know, I loved it. It gave culture a very good look because Lena is biracial with Brazilian mix in there, so there was a lot of Brazilian cultural aspects to the story, and I was just here for it. I loved it. I really enjoyed this story, as well as it being set in the Washington DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So I got to see like little locations, stuff like that, that were plopped in, that weren't just like plopped in just to plop them in. They were very atmospheric and they really went with the story. So I really enjoyed that. The next book that I finished were Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, and I am placing this in historical classics. Gave this book 3.25 stars, gave it 1 Steam fan. Listened to it as an audiobook for one of my challenges that I'm doing. This is a Black author. It is a classic Black author, and it is definitely African-American historical story. So you have, this is Janie's story from the early 1900s until sort of her life through the end of slavery and dealing with Jim Crow and being in the South, and her being a Southern woman, moving from, you know, the way she was raised and how her grandmother didn't want things for her, but at the same time married her off, and her dealing and finding out how to deal with love and what love really meant. And it was an interesting story. It is a hard-hitting story. It wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. I know that lots of people love this story. It wasn't for me. But that's all I'm going to say about that one. The next book that I finished was Piece of Work, Red Lipstick Coalition #1 by Staci Hart. I place this in new adult. I give it 3.25 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I listened to this as an audiobook. This is a person of color's book because I believe she is Asian or partially Asian. But the story revolves around Rin, who is an Asian American, and Rin is a doctoral intern at the Met. I think it's the Met, but at an art gallery, a very prestigious one at that. And she isn't comfortable in her body because she's Asian and she's super tall, and, you know, she feels like she's frumpy, and she's moving from college into the business world and doesn't have the clothes to wear. And okay, I got that. But then in walks Court, who is this shitty rich, you know, art curator, and doesn't even look at her pretty much the first day, and is like, hands her off to his assistant, whereas his assistant is trying to like get into his pants and use his name because he's well-to-do. And they spent a lot of time in this book talking about racial characteristics and racial appearances, body image issues, and it just got a little overwhelming. It was almost obsessive, the amount of information and text and dialogue that went with how I'm so tall, I can't wear this, oh my goodness, nobody likes me, and da-da-da-da-da. But her friends are like, oh, you're beautiful, this and that, and don't you feel powerful now that you're wearing your red lipstick? And he now all of a sudden sees me, but he sees her because she's pale, and look at her pale legs, and da-da-da-da-da. So it got a little overwhelming when it came to the appearances, the racial stuff, and I was just like, oh, I wish we could get off of that topic. Let's just stick to the story of the fact that it's a workplace romance, and there's lots of power dynamic in this one, because he is the curator, his father is the museum's president, and there's some blackmail that goes along, and it's like, not the best sort of situation in turn. So yeah, there's that. The next book that I finished was Caraval #1 by Stephanie Gruber, and I'm placing this in fantasy. I don't even know that I would place this in YA fantasy. I don't think I would place it in adult fantasy. Maybe new adult fantasy. I don't know. Just fantasy, period. I give this book 4 stars. I give it 1 Steam fan. I listened to it as an audiobook. I read it for a challenge that I'm doing, and this was actually a really kind of fun, really easy listen. I like zoomed through it in a day. I sat down yesterday morning and was like, I'm going to read this book. Popped it in, read it. I had the physical copy in front of me as well as listening to it as an audiobook, and I like zoomed through it. Just phew. So this book follows Scarlett, Donatella, Julian, and Legend. Scarlett and Donatella are sisters. They have been really abused by their father. Their father's really just a douchebag. Ugh. Did not like him at all whatsoever. But there is this Caraval that is held by Legend. He is a game maker, and he is like, you know, it traveled around, but then something happened. Well, Scarlett has been writing Legend to try and get him to bring the game to her, where her location, stuff like that. And then finally, years later, he finally, you know, writes her back and is like, hey, come on down. If you can get here, I'll let you into the game. So she ends up going to the game. Her and Donatella and Julian end up playing the game and stuff like that. It was very, very interesting. I was intrigued by it. I am intrigued to get to the next book because I kind of want to know what's going on. I kind of don't think that the ending was a cliffhanger. I could just not read the next book and be fine. At this point, it didn't leave me on a cliffhanger like, I need to get to the next book because I need some answers. I'm okay with the answers that I did get, and I'm like, if I get to the next one, okay. If not, I'm cool too. Then the final book that I finished reading last week was Head Over Wheels by Samantha Chase. I placed this in contemporary novella. I give it 3 stars. I give it 1 Steam fan. I listened to it on the podcast of Read Me Romance. Read Me Romance. And this is a workplace romance where Danielle works in a classic car restoration shop, and Malcolm is the son of the owner. They work on these cars together. They ended up taking a road trip with one of the classic cars that they just refurbished to sort of show it off and things like that. And during the road trip, I guess they hook up because, yeah, there's no sex in this. None whatsoever. I guess they have sex because they say that they hooked up like 2 or 3 times and during some of the stops and stuff like that. And I'm like, did they just have sex? Did they? Oh, okay. I guess. I didn't feel their chemistry. I didn't feel their sexy times. I'm speechless at this one. I don't know. Don't know what to say about that. Okay, on to what I am currently reading. I am currently reading Tangle by Adriana Locke, which is book number 2 in the Dogwood Lane series. I am also reading Don't Let Me Go by Teagan Hunter, which is an arc. And this week, not sure how this is going to go, but I put out my Contemporary-a-thon OMR, and I will be trying to get to these books right here. Don't know how well that's going to go, but some of them are audiobooks, but most of them are arcs. So like most of my OMRs, I will be changing it around. Yeah. So there's that. Alrighty, have you read any of the books that I have just listed off? What are your thoughts on them? Let me know down in the comment section. Is there one that stood out to you that you're going to go out and check out? If you want further discussion about them, please let me know, because I am more than happy to talk to you offline and in the comments about these books, or in my DMs over on Twitter, which you can find all that information down in the description box. These are timestamps, so if there's a specific book that you're looking for and you may have missed the name of it or missed the cover for it, check the box for the timestamps. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, there is a feedback form down in the description box so you guys can help me improve my channel. I did close down Patreon, but the Ko-fi page is still up. So if you want to give donations on an occasional basis, that'd be greatly appreciated. Continue to support this channel. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.